So there are really two types of sales individuals, and they really have very different DNA. There's a class of salespeople I would call the hunter, and the hunter is just what you imagine. They will go out and search under every stone. They will look to close a deal, bring in the bounty, do everything possible to make a deal happen. And when it's done, they'll be out after the next deal. So that is good when you need lots of customers. They are not going to, however, continue to nurture those relationships. They're not going to stay with old accounts. They will also use every possible lever available to them in the deal structure. Give off discounts, provide discounts, offer more sales, more post-sale support, offer features that may not be custom or standard features. They will use every technique they can to close the deal. The other type of salesperson is the farmer. So the farmer, again, what you imagine that to be. They will really nurture the existing relationships, find more sales out of those accounts. They're very relationship focused, which is great, and they will continue to generate revenues from that great one or two customers. What they will not do is go and find new business continually and go out and hunt new accounts. So different types of individuals for different types of situations, and depending on where you are in your product life cycle, you'll need both at one time. It's likely not the same person though.
The differences in compensation between hunters and farmers are actually many. The hunters are intended to be really incented by their pay at risk. You tend to find those sorts of individuals being very driven by that risk element. So obviously you're going to see something more like a 50-50 split between their base and their incentive. Unlike farmers, on the other hand, farmers are more the nurturers. They're the ones out there nurturing the relationship. And the farmers tend to see a little bit more on the base salary side than you would see with the hunters, to reflect the fact that they're spending more time working with that relationship and that customer.
So when you're compensating salespeople, you really need to consider both the short-term and long-term objectives of the organization. You need to think about where the focus needs to be in the next 6 months, a year, 2 years. So when you're building a plan, you don't want to build a plan based on pure revenue objectives if you also have a lot of strategic things that you need this person to do, especially in the early stages. So you may actually want to create a plan that's focused more on those specific strategic objectives, or a combination of the two. But you need to always balance them to make sure that one isn't being followed at the expense of the other. If one is going to provide more money, more opportunity, then you could be putting the other objectives at risk. So you always have to balance that.
Sometimes incentive plans can actually backfire. I have a story about one salesperson that I worked with years ago who was one of our most strategic salespeople, very influential, just always bang on. We were really impressed with his performance. And fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, he overachieved because our quota setting process was not really stable at the time. And ended up, he decided that he'd rather be in Bermuda than back at the corporate office with us. So he decided to retire for a time being, and that was a big loss for the company. So I guess you could say lessons learned. You'd be better to have no quota than set inaccurate quotas.
One of the first lessons that I learned actually about sales compensation was we had a gentleman in one of the companies I was working with who had always been considered to be sort of the superstar of sales in the organization. Every year he exceeded his quota. They had a President's Club type program every year. He was king of the program. And what happened was finance got a new system where they could actually start to track costs right down to the sales rep level. And what came out of that was that this guy actually was costing the company money because of all of the things that he was doing and the additional costs with travel or golfing and entertaining clients and a host of other things. He was actually costing more than the revenue he was bringing in, and yet we were rewarding him for that. And so it comes back down to, you really do have to have finance involved. You have to constantly assess the profitability. You have to be able to look at every aspect of the plan design and make sure it really is achieving your business results.